Ivor is my wife's grandfather, and this is his cup. Well, it's not his cup. It's a painting I did of his cup recently when I was thinking about telling this story. I was lucky enough to know Ivor for 10 years. We became very good buddies in those 10 years. And whenever I'd see him, he'd say, "I'm putting the kettle on. What are you having?" And I'd say, I'll have a coffee, please." And for 10 years, he would make us both a cup of tea. There's probably something in that. It's really difficult to find the words to describe someone you thought a lot of. So I've had to make a cup of tea to give this my best go. I can't speak for my wife, but Ivor was a brilliant grandfather because he was just the best bloke. The best bloke you could ever wish to meet, really. In 2018, I was made redundant from 2 zero-hour contract jobs at the same time. It was a really difficult time in my life, and I was lucky enough to receive nothing but absolute support from my beautiful and brilliant wife. But I was really worried about what her family would think of this new business venture I was thinking about doing. But Ivor, being Ivor, offered his garage free of charge, so I could set up my first print studio for BAGSY. I worked out of Ivor's garage for the next 2 years. Ivor was always on hand with a perfectly timed cup of tea, or chips, eggs and tomato cooked in his kitchen and eaten on his kitchen table. We'd have a chat, we'd have another cuppa probably, and we'd talk about everything about the world, but football would always crop in. We both loved football and we bonded over that. I was lucky enough to know Ivor for those 10 years, and he filled in parts of my past that I knew nothing about, really. Because my own grandfather passed away when I was 8, but I was lucky that Ivor worked with my grandfather in the pit, and he was able to tell me stories and things about my grandfather, but just stories about his life and his past around about that time. Me and Ivor had a lot in common, but we had a similar outlook on life. We both believed that the sun shone whenever my wife and his granddaughter was around. Ivor became more and more unwell and was more reliant on me and my wife. So it just makes sense for me to continue to work out of his garage and be on hand if he needed anything from me or my wife when she was in work. And when he sadly was diagnosed with a terminal illness, it became difficult for the whole family. But Ivor, being Ivor, was always himself. He was always full of laughs and full of joy and full of stories. I remember one time in particular, it was coming up to Christmas, and I was getting all the orders ready to post out for Christmas. And Ivor, sadly due to his diagnosis and not having long left in terms of time, more and more people wanted to come to the house to see him because he was so popular. Everyone knew Ivor. And I'd come up from the garage into the kitchen, and I'd hear and say that I was coming in, and they were there to see him, and he'd say, when you go and show him stuff you've been printing down the garage, come and show him." And Ivor, ever the salesman, like he could sell snow to the snowman. He'd insist I go and get it and show him, but I always thought, like, surely he knew, like, they're there to see him, like, and that just showed the type of person he was, really. He was the most selfless person probably I've ever known, to be honest. Like I said, I was really, really worried what my wife's side of the family would think of my new business venture. But Ivor was always encouraging. He was always everyone's biggest supporter, and he thought the world of my wife. Sadly, Ivor passed away at the end of 2019 after a short illness, and he's very much missed every single day. Every day I try to be more like Ivor.